And on this January evening on Twister Talk, I'm Gary.
I'm Sue.
And we're going to give you a rundown on some of the weather events heading toward the Midwest and parts of the lower Midwest over the weekend. We'll talk about that in a minute. But for right now, we just if you basically live in Indiana, Illinois, parts of Kentucky, and Ohio, you'll be getting some snow overnight tonight. It is snowing out in western Indiana right now. That will move over Ohio and parts of Pennsylvania as the evening goes on. So right now, only about 1 to 2 inches of snow in places, so not really super impactful for traveling.
Yeah,
but it's going to be kind of
looks like a pretty moderate event. I'm actually looking at Wilmington's graphic on this, and it looks like, if anything, there may be slightly higher amounts, and I just had to zoom this in to make it larger. That's what old eyes do to you.
Yeah.
Right now, they're running kind of 1 or less inches down along the river.
Right.
About 1 to 2 up into South Columbus, and then the possibility of 2 to 3 in North Columbus and Marysville, and then of course you're into National Weather Service Cleveland's forecast area.
Right. You're up there, and there will be snow up in that area too. Will not be not as much lake effect. There will be some later in the day on Friday, but this storm will be moving with winds from west to east on this, and then shifting to the northwest later. That will add some lake effect snows later on the day on Friday. But for most of us along the I-70 corridor, basically 1 to 2 inches south of I-70, 2 to 3 inches north of I-70 basically.
Yeah.
And again, with all kinds of weather, whether it's rain, severe weather, or hurricanes, or just whatever, it's always the I-70 corridor. It seems to be the demarcation.
It's kind of weird, isn't it?
It is strange.
It's kind of weird.
What is not strange is what is heading for the Midwest this weekend. And this is what we want to talk about. We'll be covering through the weekend, but this is going to be Sunday and Monday, a significant winter event in a good part of the Midwest soon. This is going to be the first major storm like this we've had in a couple of years.
Yeah, of course, what's considerably hilarious about this, I guess, is, I'm a severe weather person, and this time of year, I don't consider this severe weather. I just consider this hideous tedium.
That's right.
So there you go. So there is a large amount of hideous tedium that is heading towards the central United States, basically, and right on into some of Appalachia, in fact. Right.
And it's going to be a major winter event. Major snows are going to be possible. But the biggest concern, Sue, and we'll talk about the storm track in just a moment, but on the southern part of the storm track, there could be a potential for significant freezing rain accumulations Sunday into Monday. Some places are calling for could be a half inch in some places, and of course that's going to wreak havoc on power systems and roads and everything else, so it's going to be a real mess. Again,
it's very important to remember, of course, that these storm tracks are going to change. But right now, it looks like the primary areas of icing are going to be the southern parts of
Kentucky?
Is that Iowa? Yeah, it's good. Well, actually, most of Kentucky.
Right.
Most of Kentucky, southern West Virginia, on into parts of Virginia, and then, of course, a swath across the middle section of the country.
Right. And, the freezing rain event will all the way back into Oklahoma, to Kansas and parts of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And then this will track across into northern Tennessee and most of Kentucky, parts of Virginia and West Virginia. Even a small chance of ice accumulations in the mountains of North Carolina near Asheville, which is the last thing any of those people need.
Yeah.
Now, south of that line, it's going to be a rain event, and some places will pick up. Some places in the south will pick up at least 1 inch of rain. Some will pick up a little more, a little less. But the big thing behind that will be the cold weather. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But again, now we've talked about this before in our winter forecast, and we've discussed this. Right now, everybody still says, well, is this going to happen just like they're saying? Yes and no. Really, because of the fact that these storm tracks, so we've learned in the past 50 miles of that low pressure storm makes a difference, big difference.
Yeah, I mean, even the Wilmington forecast office has pointed out, this is going to be hard to forecast.
Right.
And I can quote here that it's going to, with a high, there's an elevated warm layer aloft. The gradients are pretty tight. It could end up being an all-rain event even here, although I don't think it's going to. It'll be too cold, but yeah. And the thing is, especially when you have warm air aloft, that's when you get a lot of freezing rain and sleet. That's
going to be the issue in a lot of that part of the country, basically because it will be warmer above ground and temperatures will be in the 20s. Yeah, you heard me, in the 20s in a lot of the area that could expect a freezing rain event. And so that's what's happening. And yes, for here, we'll be in the 20s. The air above most of the Midwest right now, or into Saturday and Sunday and Monday, are going to be still a little warmer than normal, but there will be, as the cold intrusion moves in, basically north of the Ohio River and basically around the I-70 corridor, again, we're going to have basically a snow event. Now, how much we're going to get, we're not sure yet. Some forecasts, Sue, if it holds, it will call for at least maybe 5 to 6 inches of snow in this area of central Ohio, back through Indianapolis and on into St. Louis. So we'll have to wait and see.
Right now, Wilmington is calling for this area for an inch of what they call liquid equivalent. And how much snow that translates into, again, depends a lot on things like the temperature and some of the other factors, because 1 inch of water equivalent can, I think, be up to 6 inches of snow. But of course, it may not end up that way.
Right. We don't know. And then why are you on here telling us about it? Because we're letting you know that no matter what happens, this is going to be a significant weather event this coming weekend. As we get into Sunday night and Monday, this will be a not playing around event. No matter what happens, there's going to be travel impacts. There's going to be impacts with power being out, because freezing rain always causes massive power outlets. It just does. Because the transmission wires, you get about an inch of ice on there, they're coming down.
And not only that, but branches and things come down when they have ice on them. So there's and of course you also have motorists who get on the ice and slide into power poles. It's not good.
Yeah, and remember, folks, about motorists, all-wheel drive does not protect you in freezing rain and ice on the road. You're not going to get any traction. Please don't think you are. We see that every year. He took his SUV out, thought he could handle it, and bang, right into the ditch or a power pole, or and right into the side of the road or something. So it does happen. So remember, no vehicle is good for traveling in freezing rain, especially any ice accumulation on the road. And it looks like, Sue, unfortunately, there will be some in areas, and it could be at least a half inch, and that is not.
That's not ideal.
Because afterwards, the problem is afterwards, none of this is going to melt really fast either. Very cold Arctic air will be coming in behind this system. Temperatures basically, for the most part, in the Midwest will stay in the 20s. As you go further north, toward the Canadian border, highs will be in the teens and lows will be in the single digits or below zero. Again, that's way to the north of most of the storm track. But for most of the Midwest, temperatures will be in the 20s during the day, probably low teens or some single digits at night. There will be wind accompanying the first couple of days. We'll have wind chills into the single digits into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. No real moderation in temperatures in this part of the country through the end of the next week. There will be some moderation as we go into the week. So areas that did have freezing rain, those should melt, but it still could be, so really honestly, Tuesday or Wednesday before that begins to happen, because it's going to stay near freezing or below, even in those areas, at least through the middle of the week. Next week.
This is definitely going to have a big impact on drive time basically on Monday. So It's probably going to be one of these situations where think about it before you go to work.
Absolutely. And make sure that, check everything. And don't forget, I would assume, even though it's supposed to be the first day back of school in many places on Monday, I would be surprised if any schools in these areas are open. I just can't see that happening, because that's not smart. So all that you got to plan for, and we'll see what happens. Now, Sue, we've talked about some weather things. Maybe you could give us some updates about what to do and not to do, or how to be prepared with what's coming.
Yeah, our friends at Wellington actually printed on their Facebook page today a really nice small graphic about, how to prepare for winter storms. And basically they have 4 suggestions. The first of all, prepare your home, which includes making your house winter ready.
Yes.
But it also means to have a plan in case the power goes out.
That's right.
Or in case you get trapped in your home by heavy snow.
Right.
So think about that in advance and way in advance. Actually, that's the kind of thing you should be thinking about probably in November sometime.
Yeah, really.
Prepare your vehicle. This is also important. Make sure to have a safety kit and cold weather gear and necessities with you. That means, pack a blanket in your car. Take along some energy bars and some bottled water, because in case you get stuck someplace, you may have to kind of camp in your car for a while.
Yes.
Now, the important thing I understand about if you're stuck in your car is you should try to run your car for something like 10 minutes every hour or half an hour.
Right.
And also, it's important to get out of your car and make sure your tailpipe is clear.
Yes.
So if you get stuck someplace, think about it.
Yeah. That's a good point. Clear your exhaust. Otherwise, guess what happens? You turn your car on, and guess what? Carbon monoxide feeds back into the car.
Carbon monoxide is bad. It's bad.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's bad enough that they'll be having a funeral service for you about 3 or 4 days afterwards. So it really is very deadly. And the same thing with your house inside. Yeah. And if you do lose power, for God's sakes, folks, do not take one of those propane heaters and do that, because I guarantee you that's going to put carbon monoxide in the air where you are, and yes, you will suffocate and pass out and possibly lose your life with that. So you have to be careful. But again, have blankets available in the house, and if you're out in the car, in your car, and energy bars are really a good idea because they'll give you a lot of protein and calories really quick. And that'll help you. That'll help your body fight the cold. And dress in layers, yada yada yada. Those things, and gloves, and just be ready, because you don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen with this storm. The track can vary. If the track varies 50 miles, that'll make a big deal in the forecast.
That actually plays into the Weather Service's third point. Monitor your forecast.
Yes.
Because trust me, this is going to change right up until the minute the precipitation starts falling, and it still may change after that.
It's done that before, folks. We've seen over the years where, we're expecting this much snow, and then they're talking about just about maybe 6 hours before, and then a little oscillation in the storm track, and all of a sudden we were supposed to get a foot of snow. We got 2 inches. It does happen.
I remember that.
And the big thing afterwards is going to be the brutal cold. It is going to be the coldest weather we've probably had in this area, and maybe in a couple of years since that crazy Christmas a few years back where it got really cold. We're not going to be that cold, but we're going to have significant wind chills this week. And so again, be smart. Wear your clothes in layers, and make sure you got gloves wherever you go, because it doesn't take very long for your hands to get frostbitten real quick in this weather.
It's surprisingly fast, especially with the lower temperatures. And also, if you have a dog you're going to walk,
yes,
because they have to go outside to do their bathroom stuff, take into consideration if they're a short-haired breed, they may need a coat or a sweater. Yep. Boots are actually a good thing for dogs, especially when there's salt on the walks and things. It keeps their feet out of it.
Yes.
Think this stuff through. And the fourth part of the Weather Service's suggestion on winter storm preparation is just to have a plan, especially to have a communication plan.
Yes. That's right. Not a bad deal. Most cell phones, even in heavy storms like this, usually there's battery backups. How long it lasts, I don't know, but very rarely does a whole network go down. But it is possible. But make sure you have a way of communicating with family and checking up on people to make sure they're okay. Things like that can make a difference, obviously, between helping someone out or a tragic situation. So it really depends. And Monday is going to be a rough travel day because it'll be snowing most of the night on Sunday through many of these areas, or even a freezing rain event. So you're going to have snow start Sunday afternoon, or rain or whatever, and then that's going to go through well into Monday. So it's not going to it's going to be snowing probably in areas that have already had several inches of snow. It's going to be snowing into Monday. Monday evening, Sue, most of the stuff will start lifting off to the east, and there'll be, well, of course, more snow on the East Coast. That's going to be a big deal. So we'll have to wait and see. That's going to affect traffic on probably Monday and Tuesday along the I-95 corridor, and I am very thankful I don't live there and have to drive in that stuff on Tuesday, because those freeways are a disaster when snow hits, because it's all just the heavy traffic. But there'll be issues again. Check your television, check your weather radio. They do a very good job making sure that the weather radio updates are done on time and timely, and also let you know what's happening. So all those advantages, it takes a few minutes to make sure those things are set up, and make sure you've got clothing if you have to go out, and you have water and energy bars and things like that. And even if you're home inside, make sure you got blankets available. It won't hurt if the power goes out for a few hours. Well, at least you can wrap yourself up in a couple blankets, and that'll keep you at least warm and going on, moving on and everything. Because again, if power does go out, I'm more concerned, Sue, about power where the icing is going to be, the freezing rain event's going to be. That's where the biggest power outages will be. And our people that listen to us in those areas, be ready for an event that may last a few days before you get your power back. That is normally the norm, so to speak. Usually after an icing event, it can take anywhere from 3 to 5 days to restore power. That's a study that I was reading just a few hours back. So
that doesn't surprise me. So if you have a neighbor or somebody who has like a fireplace or a wood stove, become better friends with them over the next couple days.
That's right.
Just in case.
And also, folks, you cannot rent dog teams anywhere at this time of year. So if you want to get a dog team in the sled, you should have been doing that before, because it's going to be too late now, and you're not going to be able to train them in time or train yourself. I just had to mention that because I have a friend of mine in Alaska who mentioned that the other day. Oh, you'll get a dog team out there. Well, yes, you have them up there. I mean, come on, man. I tell you, some people just don't think things through. But anyway, 1 to 2 inches of snow tonight in most of central Ohio, parts of Indiana, Illinois, and all into Pennsylvania, and cool weather the next couple of days. Sunday night, a major winter storm. The storm will start Sunday afternoon, more likely in the Midwest. We're talking about Kansas, Oklahoma, into Missouri and Iowa, then Illinois, and then that major weather event will move into Indiana and Ohio in the overnight hours. Some places north of the I-70 corridor could pick up at least 6 inches of snow, could be more. The biggest concern right now is a potential significant freezing rain event south of the Ohio River into Kentucky, Tennessee, and all the way back into southern Missouri and even northern Arkansas and those places, and even the possibility of some significant ice issues in the Appalachians near North Carolina and Asheville and stuff on Sunday night into Monday. So it's going to be a real mess. If you don't have to go anywhere Sunday and Monday, don't. Just stay home. And remember to check your school closing, but like Sue says, for God's sakes, check the weather. Make sure you know what's going on, because you're going to need it, because I guarantee you, we haven't had anything like this in a couple of years, and I know one thing, when it comes to winter weather, we have a short-term memory loss. We just do. I guarantee it. So anyway, we'll be with you tomorrow. We'll give you an update on what's happening tomorrow as far as the weather and where this is all headed. And, of course, we'll be giving you updates over the weekend. It's going to be a significant weather event. And just stay safe and stay smart. For Twister Talk, I'm Gary.
I'm Sue.
All right, keep those parkas handy.